Ever wondered how a cyber attack could change the way you buy your groceries? It's a question that might seem outlandish at first glance, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think. We live in a world that's more interconnected than ever before. Our daily lives are intertwined with technology in ways we often take for granted. From the alarm clock that wakes us up in the morning to the GPS that guides us on our way, to the cards and apps we use to pay for our groceries, technology is an integral part of our lives. It's convenient, it's efficient, and it's here to stay. But with all this convenience and efficiency comes a hidden danger: the threat of cyber attacks. These are not the kinds of attacks you can see coming. They're not wars fought on battlefields, but in the invisible realm of cyberspace. They're fought with codes and algorithms instead of guns and bombs, and they have the potential to disrupt our lives in unimaginable ways. So, what exactly is a cyber attack? In simple terms, it's an attempt by hackers to damage or destroy a computer network or system. It can range from stealing personal data to shutting down entire networks, and in a world where everything from our banking systems to our power grids is reliant on computer networks, the potential for chaos is immense. Now let's bring this down to a personal level. Picture this. You walk into your local grocery store, reach for your card or phone to pay for your groceries, and nothing. The payment systems are down. Not just in your store, but in every store. A cyber attack has taken down the payment networks. Suddenly you can't buy food. Companies can't order supplies. Transportation grinds to a halt. No fuel can be purchased. It's a scenario that's not only possible, but increasingly likely as our reliance on technology grows. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that you couldn't buy food from your local store anymore. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? And it's why we need to be aware of the unseen threat of cyber attacks. As we move forward into the digital era, it's a threat we can't afford to ignore. Before we delve deeper into this digital nightmare, take a moment to subscribe to our channel, Prepping for Tomorrow. We're all about survival in an uncertain future. Preparation is key in any situation, and here, we offer a wealth of knowledge and strategies for survival scenarios. From food shortages to economic collapse, our content is designed to equip you with the tools you need to prevail. So join us as we navigate the unpredictable landscape of tomorrow. Now let's dive back into our hypothetical nightmare. Imagine the Smith family. They're your average family until one day, a cyber attack disrupts their normal life. This average Tuesday morning, they wake up to a world that has changed overnight. They're unaware that an invisible enemy has struck, an enemy that operates in the realm of zeros and ones. The Smiths, like most families, have their morning routine down to a science. A quick breakfast, a glance at the news, then off to work and school. But today their routine is shattered. The credit cards won't swipe, the ATMs are down, and e-transfers have crashed. The Smiths are confused, but they're not alone. The same scenario is playing out in households across the globe. Their usual grocery store run turns into a nightmare. They can't pay for their cart full of groceries. The Smiths are left standing in the middle of the supermarket, their faces a mirror of confusion and growing panic. They're not alone. Around them, others are coming to the same realization. The cyber attack has paralyzed the banking system. The Smiths return home, their car empty of the usual bags of groceries. They try to make sense of the situation. They dig out old checkbooks, but it's no use. The banks are not processing checks. They scramble to find cash, but it's a scarce commodity. Across town, companies are unable to order supplies, trucks are idling, unable to fuel up due to payment systems being down. The dominoes are starting to fall. The cyber attack is not just a disruption, it's a complete halt of commerce. As the Smiths sit at their kitchen table, their pantry grows emptier by the hour. Their usual comforts are gone. They're left in a state of uncertainty, their world turned upside down. The cyber attack has exposed their vulnerability, the fragility of a system we all take for granted. The Smiths, like many others, are left with a chilling question: what now? A cyber attack doesn't just affect one family, it sends ripples throughout the entire economy. The impact of such an attack is like a set of dominoes, toppling one after another in a cascading sequence of events. Imagine for a moment the heartbeat of commerce, the rhythm of trade, and the flow of goods and services suddenly coming to a grinding halt. Companies unable to order items, a fundamental disruption in the supply chain, as the digital infrastructure they rely on is compromised. The first domino falls and the rest follow suit. Next, consider the transportation industry, which relies heavily on digital systems for scheduling, tracking, and fueling its fleets. A cyber attack could cripple these systems, leaving trucks stranded, ships docked, and planes grounded. No fuel can be purchased, no goods can be transported. The second domino tumbles. The repercussions of these first two dominoes falling are far-reaching. Supermarkets, for instance, depend on a steady flow of goods to keep their shelves stocked. But what happens when that flow is disrupted? Food becomes scarce. The third domino falls, leading to food shortages. And what happens when food shortages become the norm rather than the exception? Prices skyrocket, people panic, and the economy teeters on the brink of collapse. The fourth and final domino falls, ushering in a period of economic instability unlike anything we've seen in recent history. Each of these dominoes represents a critical component of our modern, interconnected world. When one falls, it's not a solitary event but rather a trigger that sets off a chain reaction. This is the sobering reality of a world under siege by a cyber attack. It's not just about losing access to your Netflix account or not being able to Instagram your dinner. It's about the potential disruption of the very systems that keep our society functioning. In this digital age, a cyber attack could potentially plunge us into a new dark age. The domino effect of such an event is a sobering reminder of how interconnected and how vulnerable we truly are. In a world turned upside down, how do we prepare? How do we survive? Imagine the power of being self-reliant in a society thrown into chaos by a cyber attack. This is where the concept of prepping comes into play. Prepping is not merely a hobby or a trend. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, a way of life that emphasizes preparedness, self-sustainability, and resilience. Imagine having a pantry, a prepper pantry, filled with essentials that could potentially sustain you and your family when store shelves are empty. A pantry filled, not with luxury items but with the necessities for survival. We're talking about grains, canned goods, dried foods, water, and other non-perishables. Having this stockpile could mean the difference between desperation and survival in the wake of a global economic collapse. But let's be honest, not everyone has the financial resources to stockpile goods. That's where the concept of a budget prepper comes in. Being a budget prepper means being smart with your resources. It means buying in bulk, taking advantage of sales, and preserving food when it's abundant. It means being resourceful, creative, and practical. Remember, it's not about having everything, it's about having what you need. And then, there's homesteading. In a world where transportation grinds to a halt, where fuel becomes a luxury, where companies can no longer deliver goods, imagine the value of being able to produce your own food. Homesteading is not just about growing your vegetables or raising chickens, it's about self-sufficiency. It's about being independent of a system that, as we've seen, can be vulnerable to disruption. In the face of an uncertain future, we must prepare today for the challenges of tomorrow. We must equip ourselves with the knowledge, the skills, and the mindset to navigate a world turned upside down. Because when the unexpected happens, when the unthinkable becomes reality, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. In the face of adversity, we must not just endure, but prevail. In a world increasingly reliant on technology, the threat of cyber attacks is more real than ever. We've journeyed together through the potential impact of such a catastrophe, where the world economy could come to a halt, payment systems could collapse, and the transportation of essential goods could cease. Imagine, for a moment, a world where credit and bank cards are useless, where companies can't order items and no fuel can be purchased. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But, as we've discussed, it's a potential reality we must be prepared for. This is where the importance of prepping comes into play. Having a well-stocked prepper pantry and the knowledge of homesteading can make all the difference in such scenarios. It's about creating a buffer, a safety net, that can keep you and your loved ones secure when the systems we take for granted fail us. Food shortages can be mitigated by budget prepping and self-sustainability practices. It's about becoming less reliant on the grid, more self-sufficient, and prepared for the unexpected. It's not just about surviving an economic collapse, it's about thriving in spite of it. So as we move forward, let's take these lessons to heart. Let's equip ourselves with the tools and knowledge necessary to face these potential challenges. Remember, the future is uncertain, but with preparation and knowledge, we can face it head on. Stay safe, stay prepared.